When we normally think of light, we usually just think of illumination, right? Like
Yeah.
you flip a switch, the bulb glows, and the whole room just lights up.
Right. It's just this broad wash of energy. It's a very generalized application of physics that we honestly take for granted every single day.
Yeah, exactly. It's democratic, like everything in the room gets touched by that exact same light. But what if you could train that light?
Train it.
Yeah, like what if you could take a single isolated beam, give it a highly specific set of instructions, and then send it deep into the microscopic layers of human skin, basically to perform a search and destroy mission.
Well, then you're no longer talking about light in the way we experience it when we turn on a lamp.
Mm.
I mean, you're talking about one of the most precise and potentially dangerous medical instruments we have.
Okay, let's unpack this because if you walk into literally any clinic today or just open a beauty magazine, you are absolutely bombarded with marketing noise about cosmetic dermatology.
Oh, it's everywhere. Lasers for this, light therapies for that.
Right. And it sounds like pure science fiction to a lot of people. But for you, the listener, we really want to clarify that the difference between an incredible result and a permanent scar just comes down to fundamental physics.
It really does. Understanding this science is really the ultimate tool for your own consumer safety.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're pulling from a really comprehensive stack of clinical research notes on laser tech, plus a detailed profile on Dr. Low Chai Ling and her practice, the SW1 clinic in Singapore.
Which gives us a great real-world anchor for all this theory.
Yeah, I am just so excited to demystify this. So if we are going to understand how these machines actually work on our faces, we have to start at the bottom. What is the core principle making a medical laser even possible?
So the underlying principle of all aesthetic lasers is this concept called selective photothermolysis.
Selective photothermolysis? That's a mouthful.
It is, but let's break that word down because it tells you exactly what the machine is doing. So photo means light, thermo means heat, and lysis means to break down or destroy.
Ah, okay. So the goal is to use light energy to selectively heat up and destroy a very specific target in the skin without frying the surrounding tissue.
Exactly. You want to hit the target, leave the rest alone. And in dermatology, those specific targets are called chromophores.
Chromophores, got it.
Yeah. So a true laser emits one single pure wavelength of light. It's a monochromatic beam. And that specific wavelength is chosen by the doctor because it is absorbed primarily by one specific chromophore in your skin.
And what are these chromophores normally? Like, what are we actually shooting at?
Usually we are targeting one of three things. There's melanin, which is your skin's pigment. There's hemoglobin, which is the red in your blood vessels, or water, which makes up the skin tissue itself.
Oh, wow. So if someone has like a dark sunspot, a doctor uses a wavelength that melanin just greedily absorbs, but that the water and blood in the surrounding healthy skin largely ignore.
You've got it.
So it's not a flashlight, it's a sniper rifle. If you have the wrong target, the wrong scope, or the wrong ammo, you're either going to miss entirely or cause serious collateral damage.
That is a perfect analogy. But the wavelength, the ammo in your sniper rifle is really just the first part of the equation.
Really? There's more to it.
Oh, yeah. There are actually 4 crucial variables that dictate whether a treatment works or whether it causes severe damage.
Okay, lay them on me.
So wavelength dictates what you hit. Then you have pulse duration, which is how long the energy is delivered.
I'm guessing a shorter pulse means more precision, like a quick zap so the heat doesn't have time to bleed into the nearby healthy cells.
Spot on. Then you have the fluence, which is the actual energy level.
Oh, the sheer power.
Exactly, the power per unit area. And finally, the spot size, which is how wide and focused the beam is on the skin.
That is a lot to juggle.
It is.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that manipulating those exact 4 variables, tuning the wavelength, shortening the pulse, adjusting the fluence, dialing in the spot size, is what separates a miracle aesthetic result from a catastrophic medical disaster.
Wow. So the person holding the device has to be an absolute master of these 4 dials.
They really do.
And depending on how you set those dials, you end up doing completely different things to the skin. I know from the sources there's a pretty major divide in the laser world that we need to clarify for you guys listening. Ablative versus non-ablative.
Yeah, that's a critical distinction to understand if you were ever sitting in a dermatologist's chair.
Let's start with ablative.
So ablative lasers, like your traditional CO2 or erbium lasers, these are the heavy artillery, they physically vaporize the top layer of the skin, the epidermis.
Wait, vaporize? Literally?
Literally. The water in the tissue absorbs the laser energy so rapidly that the tissue essentially boils away.
Oh my God. Which I guess forces the body into a massive healing response to grow completely new skin.
Right, it triggers a total reset.
But the trade-off must be intense. You've essentially created a controlled, open wound on your face.
You have. You are looking at significant redness, peeling, and a really serious 2-week recovery period where you probably aren't leaving the house at all.
Right, and I imagine a lot of patients just simply cannot afford to hide away for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because so many patients can't do that kind of downtime, we have non-ablative lasers.
Okay, how do those work?
Lasers, like the NWYAG, operate completely differently. They bypass the surface entirely. The wavelength passes right through the epidermis and heats the deeper layers of the dermis
To do what exactly?
to stimulate collagen and break up pigment.
So the surface of the skin stays completely intact?
Exactly. You can walk out of the clinic looking completely normal, maybe a little flushed, but that's it.
But there's a catch, right?
Always a catch. Because you aren't vaporizing the tissue, you generally need many more sessions to achieve anything close to the dramatic results of an ablative laser.
Okay, so you're stuck between essentially vaporizing your face and hiding for 2 weeks, or doing dozens of week sessions with a non-ablative laser.
Historically, yes.
There has to be a middle ground where you get the depth without the horrific downtime.
And there is. That middle ground was one of the most significant technological leaps in the field. The transition from full field lasers to fractional lasers.
Okay, what is full field?
A full field laser, whether it's ablative or non-ablative, treats the entire surface of the skin uniformly. It just hits everything in its path.
Like a solid wall of light.
Yes. Fractional technology, however, splits the beam. It delivers the energy in microscopic columns, almost like a grid of tiny dots, treating only a fraction of the skin.
Oh, I get it. Here's where it gets really interesting. Fractional technology is like aerating a lawn instead of taking a bulldozer to the entire yard.
That's a really good way to picture it.
Yeah, like when you aerate, you pull tiny plugs out of the soil, but you leave most of the grass completely untouched. The healthy grass surrounding those little holes helps the whole lawn recover infinitely faster than if you had to regrow the entire yard from just bare dirt.
That is exactly how it works biologically. By deliberately leaving islands of completely untouched healthy tissues surrounding those microscopic laser wounds, the body's healing cells can migrate across the damage rapidly.
That's brilliant.
It is. That biological trick is what drastically reduced clinical downtimes over the last decade. You get the depth of an aggressive treatment, but the safety net of intact tissue to speed up recovery.
So fractional technology largely solves the downtime problem for skin texture. But what happens when the issue isn't texture at all?
Like pigment issues.
Yeah, what if a patient just wants to get rid of dark spots, redness, and uneven pigment? Because this is where we run into a massive misunderstanding in the sources, specifically regarding Asian skin and a highly marketed treatment called IPL.
Oh boy, yes. This is perhaps the most dangerous area for consumers. IPL stands for intense pulsed light. And the very first thing we need to clarify for everyone listening is that IPL is strictly not a laser.
Which is so confusing because it is marketed alongside lasers on almost every clinic menu out there.
It is. It's everywhere. But physically, it operates on a completely different premise.
How so?
Well, remember how we established that a true laser is a single, pure wavelength of light targeting one specific thing?
Right, the sniper rifle.
Exactly. IPL is a broad spectrum of light. It's multiple wavelengths firing all at once. Think of it like a shotgun blast of light instead of that sniper rifle.
Okay, a shotgun blast.
Now, for what dermatologists call Fitzpatrick skin, types 1 through 3, so fair Caucasian skin, that shotgun blast works beautifully.
Because in fair Caucasian skin, the contrast is high, right? The freckle is dark, but the background skin is very light.
Yes, and that pigment is largely superficial, sitting right there on the top layer, the epidermis. The broad light hits the dark freckle. The freckle absorbs the heat and it flakes off.
Okay, so what's the problem?
Here is the critical failure point. Asian skin typically falls into Fitzpatrick types 4 and 5. It is medium to darker skin with naturally higher baseline melanin levels across the entire face.
Uh-oh. And IPL is not colorblind.
Not at all.
Wait, so if it's a broad spectrum shotgun blast, then it's hitting everything. For fair skin, the only target is the freckle. But for darker skin, the entire background canvas is suddenly a target too.
You've hit the nail on the head. Because IPL cannot easily distinguish between the concentrated melanin in a dark sunspot and the melanin naturally occurring in the background of medium to dark skin, the healthy skin absorbs unwanted energy.
Then what happens then?
When that happens, you risk severe thermal burns. And even if the skin doesn't physically blister, the inflammatory response to that unwanted heat triggers the melanocytes, the pigment-producing cells, to go into overdrive in a total panic.
And that leads to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, or PIH.
Exactly.
PIH.
So wait, a patient goes in to treat a few sunspots, the machine heats up their healthy background melanin, the skin panics, and they end up covered in dark, stubborn marks that are far worse than what they started with.
Yes, sadly. And it happens frequently when operators aren't properly trained on the physics of skin tone.
That is just terrifying.
Plus, because the energy is scattering indiscriminately into the normal skin, the actual treatment on the intended dark spot has massively reduced efficacy anyway. It really highlights how crucial it is to understand the canvas you are working on. And from the notes, it's not just the background color that changes. The actual structure and depth of the pigmentation in Asian skin are completely different too, right?
They are. While Caucasian freckles are usually epidermal, so surface level in Asian skin, surface freckles are actually quite rare.
So what are the spots then?
The concerns are often deep age spots, known as solar lentigines. These are concentrated melanin deposits sitting much further down at the dermal-epidermal junction.
Deep down?
Yes. Or, more challenging still, a condition called melasma.
Oh, melasma. That is notoriously difficult. It's hormonally driven, often triggered by pregnancy, oral contraceptives, or perimenopause, and it flares up with UV exposure.
Right. And crucially, it's a dermal condition. It lives deep down inside the skin.
So you can't just scrape it off the top?
No. And because it is deep and hormonally sensitive, it is highly prone to relapse. This is exactly where old-school aggressive laser approaches fail completely.
Because of the heat.
Yes. If you aggressively blast dermal melasma with high-energy heat, you will almost certainly trigger that PIH cascade we just talked about. The heat causes inflammation, the inflammation wakes up the pigment cells, and the melasma spreads and darkens dramatically.
So what does this all mean? It means melasma is like a sleeping bear. If you poke it with a high-energy laser, it wakes up angry and makes the dark spots worse. You really have to tiptoe around it.
You absolutely have to tiptoe. The clinical protocol for melasma requires a strict low and slow approach.
Slow and slow, like barbecue.
Kind of, yeah. Highly conservative settings across multiple gentle sessions. In clinical practice, the gold standard for this is the N.YAG 1064 nanometer laser.
Let's explain why that specific number, 164 nanometers, actually matters in physical space. Why is that the tool of choice?
It comes down to wave physics. A 1064 nanometer wave is physically longer than the waves used in many other lasers.
And longer means deeper.
Exactly. Because it is longer, it penetrates deeper into the skin. Crucially, as it travels down, it largely bypasses the superficial melanin at the very top of the skin.
Oh, so it ignores the background pigment we were worried about.
Right, it reaches deep into the dermis where the melasma lives, and it does so with a much lower melanin absorption rate overall. This means it can gently heat and clear the deep pigment without accidentally frying the surface pigment of darker skin types.
But the technology has evolved even further to help with this tiptoe method, hasn't it? We are moving past just tuning the wavelength and innovating on that second variable we discussed earlier, pulse duration.
Yes, enter the picosecond lasers. Brands like PicoSure, PicoWay, Discovery PIC.
Right.
This is a masterclass in physics, improving patient outcomes. Older lasers fired in nanoseconds, which is billionths of a second. Picosecond lasers fire in trillionths of a second.
A trillionth of a second. I mean, that's impossible to even imagine. Why does getting that fast actually matter for the skin?
Because it is so incredibly fast, it actually changes how the laser physically interacts with the target.
How so?
When a pulse is that short, it just doesn't have time to generate intense thermal heat. Instead of melting the pigment with heat, these ultra-short pulses create a photoacoustic effect.
Photoacoustic. So, sound.
Pressure, really. They generate microscopic pressure waves.
Oh, wow. So instead of melting a rock with a blowtorch, which radiates heat everywhere and causes inflammation, you are shattering the rock into dust with a microscopic sonic boom.
That's exactly it. Because you're using pressure rather than pure thermal heat, the risk of thermal damage, burns, and pH just plummets.
And then what happens to the dust?
The immune system naturally sweeps away that shattered pigment dust over time. It is the ultimate tool for safely treating deep dermal pigment and stubborn melasma, especially in darker skin types.
It is just brilliant to see how understanding wave physics translates directly into better, safer results for you as a patient.
Absolutely.
Let's look at how all these theories actually map out in the real world. If we look at how Dr. Low Chai Ling structures protocols at SW1 Clinic in Singapore, we get to see exactly what modern application looks like. when tailored for complex skin types.
Yeah, Dr. Low's clinic utilizes several innovative treatments that perfectly illustrate these principles. One standout from the research is the BB AquaTouch.
Okay, what is that?
It utilizes a 1927 nanometer thulium laser.
Now, a thulium laser is interesting because it targets the basal layer of the skin using that fractional technology we discussed earlier, the microcolumns.
Right.
But it's neither fully ablative nor fully non-ablative. It's actually considered subablative.
Right. So instead of completely vaporizing the surface like a heavy CO2 laser, it gently coagulates the tissue while preserving the skin's outermost protective barrier.
Coagulates, like cooking an egg white.
Sort of. It creates microscopic crusts on the treated areas.
And then those crusts act as biological bandages. Basically, the laser cooks the tiny column of tissue, but leaves it in place. That coagulated tissue acts as a natural, sterile scab, protecting the microscopic wound beneath it.
Which is incredibly smart biology. This speeds up healing naturally, which again minimizes the risk of inflammation and PIH. It treats uneven tone and rough texture with just a few days of mild redness.
And alongside the thulium, SW1 frequently utilizes something called Forever 21 BBL, or broadband light.
Yes, BBL.
Wait a second. You just warned us about broad spectrum light. You literally just said IPL shotgun blasts were a total disaster for darker skin.
I did say that, but BBL is the highly advanced, customizable cousin to traditional IPL.
Okay, how is it different?
Where old IPL uses a fixed, blunt spectrum of light, BBL technology incorporates interchangeable smart filters.
Smart filters?
Yeah, these filters allow the physician to surgically cut off specific parts of the light spectrum. They can precisely tune the wavelengths to suit different skin types, from very fair to darker tones, drastically reducing that dangerous scatter effect.
Oh, that makes sense. So you get the multi-targeting benefit of a broad light, like hitting brown spots, redness, and acne all in one session, but with the safety constraints of a laser.
Exactly.
And regarding acne, there is an incredible application for BBL that really stood out in the mix. It is actually considered safe during pregnancy.
It is, which is huge.
Because the light only penetrates a few millimeters into the skin and has absolutely zero systemic absorption into the bloodstream, it is a lifeline for patients dealing with severe hormonal acne during pregnancy.
Right, because traditional oral medications or strong topical retinoids are completely off the table for them.
It's just a profound benefit. But looking at all these tools, the thulium laser, the picosecond lasers, the BBL, it reveals a broader clinical strategy.
It does.
Yeah, if we have all these amazing individual lasers, why do the sources emphasize a combination approach? Like, why not just figure out which machine is the absolute best and just use that one?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it goes right back to the safety of Asian skin and managing that PIH risk.
Yeah.
Different lasers target different depths and different chromophores. If a doctor tries to fix every single problem, deep pigment, surface texture, redness, with just one machine, they have to crank the energy, the fluence, way up.
To force the machine to do things it wasn't strictly designed for?
Exactly.
And as we know, high fluence equals high heat, and high heat triggers the pigment cells to panic.
You've got it. By combining a picosecond laser for the deep pigment, a thulium laser for surface texture, and a gentle NDYAG for overall toning, a doctor can use much lower, safer energy levels on each individual device.
Ah, so they all work together.
Yes, you get a superior cumulative effect while maintaining an incredibly high safety margin. It prevents the skin from ever reaching that inflammatory tipping point.
It's a symphony, not a solo. You need all the instruments playing together at the right volume.
Beautifully put.
But sometimes you really do need to bring in the heavy artillery. What happens when the damage goes way beyond a sunspot? If someone has deep structural acne scars, a gentle fractional thulium laser just isn't going to cut it.
No, it's not.
How do you reset the skin without taking them out of commission for 2 weeks?
This is where we look at a really interesting case study from the clinical notes involving a patient at SW1 named Maya.
Right.
Maya was dealing with fine lines, uneven texture, and enlarged pores. She needed the gold standard structural treatment, which is the CO2 laser.
But like most people, she was terrified of the traditional ablative downtime, the 2 weeks of hiding.
Exactly. And this is where Dr. Low applied the SmartX fractional CO2 protocol.
SmartX, what makes it smart?
Well, SmartX uses a 10.6 micrometer wavelength. Because that wave is so long, it penetrates incredibly deeply into the dermis to stimulate intense collagen production and physically push up depressed scars.
But it's fractional, right?
Yes, instead of a solid vaporizing beam, It is delivered in a microspray pattern.
Oh, it's that lawn aeration concept again, but applied to the deepest penetrating laser.
Precisely. Maya received the full structural benefit of replacing the damaged tissue, but because the delivery was fractional, her downtime was reduced from 2 weeks to just 3 days.
3 days? That's a weekend.
Yeah, it provided a complete skin reset. They also have a Smart X Lite version for a zero downtime multi-session alternative.
But there's a crucial caveat from the text here. Maya's case is particularly interesting because she has lighter Caucasian-presenting skin.
Yes, that is a very important detail.
That skin tone made her an ideal candidate for standard, highly effective Smart X settings. If Maya had darker Asian skin, the doctor couldn't just use those exact same settings, right?
Oh, absolutely not. They would have to radically calibrate the machine.
Oh, so.
The core physics don't change. CO2 is still highly aggressive thermal energy. But for a patient with Fitzpatrick type 4 or 5 skin, Dr. Low would have to dial down the fluence significantly.
So less power.
Yes, and she might adjust the density of the fractional grid so the microscopic dots are further apart.
Oh, leaving more healthy tissue to manage the heat.
Exactly. And crucially, she would likely prep the skin with topical pigment inhibitors for weeks before the procedure, basically to put the melanocytes to sleep.
Wow. So it is entirely safe, but only if the operator intimately understands the baseline melanin they are working with.
That is the whole ballgame.
Which perfectly transitions us into busting some major myths and confronting the very real dangers of the cheap laser market. Because everything we've talked about relies on serious medical expertise.
It really does.
First myth to dismantle from the notes: lasers thin the skin. I hear this everywhere. People literally think they're burning away their face until there's nothing left but tissue paper.
It is completely false.
Really?
Yes. As we've seen with treatments like the SmartX CO2 or the non-ablative N/G, lasers actually inflict controlled micro-injuries.
Right.
The body responds to those precise injuries by rushing fibroblasts to the area, stimulating massive collagen and elastin production.
So they're building it up.
Exactly. Over time, repeated treatments actually thicken and strengthen the skin's density. They don't thin it out at all.
But that collagen building benefit only happens if the machine is real and the operator actually knows what they are doing. Let's talk about the mall clinic trap.
Ugh, the mall clinics.
Yeah, the terrifying reality of the cheap beauty salon laser package.
There is a hard, bright line here between medical and cosmetic devices. At a proper clinic, you are being treated with FDA-cleared Class 4 medical devices operated by trained doctors.
Like the true picosecond lasers.
Right, machines that have perfectly precise wavelengths and strictly calibrated energy outputs. At a beauty salon or a mall kiosk, you're often encountering lower-powered, consumer-grade, broad-spectrum devices.
And usually operated by beauticians with pretty limited physiological training.
Exactly. And the danger is twofold here. First, these cheap clinics often rely on wildly outdated tech.
Like what?
They might use old Q-switched nanosecond lasers instead of picosecond, blasting the skin with intense thermal heat, which carries a massively higher risk for severe PIH.
Yikes. And the second danger?
You fall for the scam of the no downtime lunch break laser.
Oh, I've seen those ads. Get a laser treatment on your lunch break, go right back to work.
Right. When a non-medical clinic promises zero downtime with an aggressive, older laser, what they're usually doing is running the machine at settings so incredibly low that it has absolutely zero therapeutic effect.
Wait, they just turn the power down?
Yeah. They dial the fluence down so far that you don't get burned, but you also don't get any results. It's essentially an expensive light show.
That is infuriating. If a clinic is promising you a miracle, but the person holding the laser doesn't even know your Fitzpatrick skin type, run out the door.
This raises an important question. How do you protect yourself as a consumer?
Yeah, what's the checklist?
Here is the exact checklist you should use in any consultation. First, ask for the specific wavelength they intend to use.
Okay, wavelength.
Second, ask what your Fitzpatrick skin type is and how that specific skin type changes their settings.
Love that. Make them prove they know the physics.
Third, demand a realistic number of sessions. If they promise to clear deep melasma in one session, they are either lying or they are going to burn you.
Right, because of the sleeping bear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, ask what their exact medically supervised protocol is for managing post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation if a complication occurs.
Like, do they actually have prescription pigment inhibitors on hand?
Exactly. If they stumble on any of these questions, walk away.
Absolutely. This deep dive has made one thing abundantly clear. Lasers are highly precise medical instruments. They require respect. They require patience, and they require an operator who truly understands the canvas they are working on, especially when it comes to the complex, beautiful nuances of Asian skin.
They really do.
I really hope this conversation has armed you with the exact vocabulary you need to advocate for your own skin health. You now know the difference between a blunt shotgun blast of light and a targeted picosecond acoustic wave. You can spot the marketing gimmicks from a mile away.
And as we reflect on all this incredible technology, I actually want to leave you with a final thought to consider.
Oh, hit me.
We talked extensively today about how lasers fundamentally work by creating controlled microscopic damage, whether that's a fractional column of heat or a photoacoustic pressure wave.
What the injuries?
Yeah. That tiny, precise damage triggers the skin into producing massive amounts of fresh collagen and creating those biological bandages. It proves our skin is a highly dynamic organ that actively thickens and strengthens itself in response to these exact injuries.
It's an amazing biological response. Like the body heals itself, the laser just points it in the right direction.
Exactly. But what does this mean for the absolute future of aging?
What do you mean?
Well, if we now know exactly what cellular mechanisms are triggered by a laser to rebuild skin density and clear pigment, could scientists eventually figure out how to chemically or biologically trigger this exact same collagen-building healing response directly within our cells?
Without the damage?
Yeah. Could we one day completely bypass the need for lasers, physical trauma, or thermal damage altogether?
Wow. Turning on the body's repair switch without having to pull the trigger on the sniper rifle first. That is a wild thought to leave off on. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of light, energy, and human biology.
Keep questioning the science behind the marketing and keep exploring.
Until next time, we'll see you on the next deep dive.